afternoon. Well, it's good Christmas Eve, sort of. We're the day before Christmas. This morning I did a yoga class, my last real yoga class for this year. And then we did Christmas dinner at the church. It was a voluntary community lunch and it was very lovely. So thank you for those people who remembered and came to yoga and then came to the community lunch. We all enjoyed it. Now, we're going to talk about the Purushatras. And everything links together. There's nothing that's separate from hypermobility or separate from yoga or different from anything else. We're all looking at the same thing. The four aims of life. Before I start that, I'd like to tell a story. I love telling stories. Some people don't like me telling stories, but I'm going to do one anyway. And it's about this, it's a story from Arabia. It's about this thief. He lives in a reasonably small village, and they're expecting a person of great wealth to pay a visit. And the thief is particularly excited. The wonderful person arrives with his caravanserai and all the gems and jewels are put in their right places, and the thief waits his time. And when it's night time, he goes out, and as he knew the place would be deserted, and he has the choice of everything, and he chooses his gems very wisely, puts them in the bags that he brought, and then heads home. And going home, he can't resist having a look at what he has got. So he sits under a tree. The light hasn't quite gone yet, and he has a chance to look at the gems that he's got, to feel them and fondle them and hold them up and do those things that people who steal gems do. And then he goes home. When he gets home, he discovers that the largest gem is missing. It must have dropped out somewhere on his voyage back home. So as soon as it becomes light, he goes back onto the road that he took, and he's gone back and up and down and up and down. And a traveller coming past notices this guy fondling through the sand. And he says, "Can I help you? What are you looking for?" And the guy says, "Well, I lost one of my employer's rings. It's beautiful. And I was hoping, even if I couldn't find the ring, I could find the stone. I must have dropped it on my way home." And the traveller says, he goes up and down the road a few times and doesn't find anything, and says, "Well, there doesn't seem to be anything here. Are you sure you lost it here?" And the thief says, "Well, sort of. I lost it, I think, under the tree over there." And the traveller says, "Well, why are we looking for it on the road?" And the thief says, "Because the light is better here." And that's what we all do. We lose our treasure. And we try and find it in the easy place, not in the hard place, not in the dark place. We try to find our treasure in the easy place. We don't want to be put out. We might tell people that we're busy doing this or busy doing that, but we're really busy making excuses and avoiding. Yes, we want to find the treasure, but not if it takes too much effort. Somebody else can have it if it takes too much effort. So there is in our life an intense search for fulfillment. And, the advertising industry is all too helpful to tell us, as I said in my last video, that we are useless and helpless and not beautiful and everything like that because we haven't got this piece of equipment, or go on this trip, or take this fabulous aircraft, or whatever it is. You need more in order to be more. When in fact, you're just looking in the wrong place. You're looking in the easy place. You think you can pay for it, and you just can't. So we use this advertising and magazines and things to replace the meaning that we used to find in spiritual things. You know, this is my main disagreement with people who are going through recovery. Apart from Noah Levine, who takes the Buddhist path, and myself, who take the Buddhist yoga path, no one is trying to put back into the person that which we have to take away. You know, the person must be willing to start looking for meaning in the right place. And there's lots of literature, and I'm sharing some of it with you to help people look in the right place. But nobody said it was easy. It's a narrow road, and it gets narrower as you go down it, because you can't take your rubbish with you. The road gets narrower, the path gets narrower, and you have to jettison some of those things that you've been holding on to. You know, some people really take another way out, and they decide in some way or another to commit suicide. It's just that they don't want to look in the hard place for the gem that they've lost. If they can't find it in the easy place, then they're out of here. Thank you very much. They don't want to look in the hard place. And sometimes it means looking in the very hard place. So we're searching outside ourselves for God, but guess what? God isn't out there. You know, we have to look at our lives very seriously, and we have to understand that largely they're illusion. Our lives are illusion. Me sitting here talking to you is just, you know, I'm just responding to something. It's like going to a movie. I'm just a player on a screen, really. Luckily, I'm a player on a screen that's trying to help you. The more openly and the more fully we live, the more righteous we are, the more likely we are to have a better life, and the more likely we are to experience what we call God. So the Purushatras, this is the Buddhist view to help us find meaning in a material life. The first of the Purushatras is Dharma, Dharma, which means duty. And it's not the duty that says you have to protect your house with a gun. I don't mean that. Dharma in this sense means responsibility. Your responsibility. What are you responsible for? What would you put your life on the line for? This is a very important question, isn't it? What would you put your life on the line for? And you know, when I'm in teaching rehab, people say, well, of course I'd put my life on the line for my children and my wife. And I said, no, you wouldn't. No. You've just deserted them. For the last number of years, you've been so high on cocaine or ice or whatever it is that you haven't even known who you were. You know, please don't tell me that your children and your wife mean everything to you, and your duty is to protect them, because for the last number of years you haven't been. It might be something you aspire to, but no, you haven't been doing it. And I think most everybody agrees with me when I bring up that point of view. So, as a teacher, my Dharma is to teach you as well as I possibly can. As a parent, my Dharma, which I succeeded at sometimes and less than successful sometimes, was to do the best I could for my children. I always did the best that I could for them. but sometimes I was looking in the wrong place. It's about meeting your obligations with the thought that you need to serve yourself as well as serving the greater good. It's an easier choice if you're Buddhist because you believe in reincarnation, and so if somebody takes your life, as long as you've made the right decision, as long as the karma is good, then perhaps the next life is not going to be so difficult. When I was working in the States, one of my colleagues got hurt. That is the cat. Sorry, excuse me, I'm going to take the cat out. Sorry about that, but if she comes in, she just makes the worst noises because she just doesn't like me to be doing anything else. One of my colleagues was accosted one evening in her apartment by a guy with a knife. And she had made a vow of non-violence. She was trying to live by the yamas. I explained those to you earlier on in the videos. Thou shalt not kill. And the guy got out a knife and put it to her throat and wanted sex with her. And he said if she didn't give him sex, he'd kill her. Her response was to put her hands around the knife like that. And you can imagine there was quite a lot of damage done to her hands. But she was not particularly worried about the damage to her hands. She was worried about the damage to her karma, and used that attack as an opportunity to explore herself and her responsibility to herself and her responsibility to the vow that she'd made and those kind of things. Now it's really an extreme point of view, and I don't expect any of you to try that or to do that. But she took her spiritual life very seriously. So it's important that you take your life seriously, but you may not be that dedicated to the point. But she saw her duty very clearly, and she was prepared to put her life on the line, or her hands on the line for that. I imagine that it was an extremely painful process. I know that the recovery was. The guy left without extracting his fee, and she went on with her yoga teaching when her hands healed. So some questions you might like to ask are, what are my obligations in this life? And what obligations feel right? When do I feel that I'm doing the highest good? I feel that I'm doing the highest good when I'm teaching. So I am learning to transfer my teaching style to the video. It's not an easy thing to do. It might look easy and I might look messy and you might have to put up with cats. But I know that I am serving the highest good when I am teaching. I know that I am on the path for good when I'm teaching. When are you on the path for good? Is it when you are serving? Is it when you're playing with your children? Is it when you're caring for your wife? Or is it when you're sitting on the couch doing nothing? How can you best serve the world is a very good question. What could you do to serve the world? might be just a small thing, setting up a community garden plot. That's serving the world. Volunteering at a soup kitchen. That's serving the world. I once had a client, and he was a marijuana addict. He'd been at it for 30 years. And he was so deluded, he believed that his children didn't know that he smoked pot. I said to him, where do you do that? Where do you smoke pot? And he said, in the shed. I only smoke it in the shed. So I said, are your children home when you smoke pot? And he said, yes, but I lock the door. I said, if you think that you smoke pot and the children don't know, you're living in fairyland. Of course they know. Children know everything. Anyway, this guy was in rehab, and he wanted to change as long as he didn't have to be there when the change occurred. Kind of like Woody Allen. Don't mind dying, but I don't want to be there when it happens. Well, he didn't mind changing, but he didn't want to be there when it was happening. Not possible. And, every time I would come to work, he would come up to me, make a special effort, and he'd say, am I healed yet? And I'd say, no, I don't think so. Is it going to take long? Probably. When will I know if I'm healed? And I said, well, you will know. You won't have to ask me, you'll know. And he said, is there anything that I could really do? I said, yes, serve others. Well, that was about as far from ever going to happen at that point in his recovery. Anyway, he kicked the pot. Kicked the pot. He kicked the habit, sort of, as much as anybody does. And then he went back to life. And about a month later, I got a phone call from him, and he said, I am doing what you said. I have volunteered and I'm working in a soup kitchen. I totally hate it. When will I know if I'm cured? I said, no, that's not what it's about. Please give up the soup kitchen right now. You're serving up poison. You're not serving up soup. Just go out and do something else. Do the soup kitchen when you're ready. Because, to do your duty, you have to be in love with it. You have to see there's a point. If you have to ring up somebody to find out whether there's a point to what you're doing, there isn't a point. Yes, you need to see a mentor or a counsellor from time to time, but not to find out whether what you're doing makes sense. You're a grown person. You should know that. It's about working within the structure, within humanity, to be the best you can be. That's what duty is all about, being the best you can be. And I've come a cropper a few times when I thought I was going the right route, and I was just really stroking my ego. Are you doing your volunteering because it makes you feel good? Or because you're lonely, or all of those things where you're not really thinking about the other person? Do you wash the dishes even when you're busy and you don't want to? Do you sweep the floor at the volunteer house even when you'd rather be home watching telly? Do you clean the toilets when you hate cleaning toilets? All of those things are things that we start and we learn to understand them by doing them. If any of you have seen the movie Gandhi, Gandhi was a high caste Indian. He was a Brahmin, and as was his wife. And when he started his ashram, she had to learn to clean the toilets. Did she want to clean the toilets? No way. No way. In the movie you see the interaction between Gandhi and his wife. She just felt that he was asking above and beyond. But in the end she came to understand why he had asked that, and because she loved him and because he was her husband, they really grew together beautifully, each adjusting to the other. Their duty became caring for each other. Gandhi never wanted to have a big organization. His life was an experiment, and his wife came along with him on that experiment. When he was in jail, she got jailed because the British knew that if they didn't jail her, she would stand up in his place. Okay, so there are 4 Purushatras, 4 aims, and we're going to do 1 in each video. So that was duty. I hope you took notes. Please go on to the website www.myyogabooks.etsy.com. I always forget the Etsy. myyogabooks.etsy.com, and you'll find a lot of the things I talk about in small booklets on that site, so you can access them rather than searching all over the place. If you like academic, then you will love going to the Theosophical Library in Russell Street in Melbourne, and they have them in every state. I just go to the one in Melbourne, and it's a really ancient library of esoteric titles, and I don't know what I'd do without the books that they have there. So have a wonderful Christmas Eve. I will be back online sometime tomorrow. Namaste. Or as my 5-year-olds in my classes say, Mother's Day. It's a gorgeous day. Have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope the Father Christmas brings you something that is useful. See you tomorrow.